Hello everyone. It's Ken with CSLearner.com again. Today I wanted to do something special. What I want to do is, up until this point, I've been making a lot of videos that are just kind of a shotgun blast of random topics. This time I actually want to make something that I'm going to upload to GitHub. So let me show you really quick. Let's see. Let's see if I can find myself. Here we go. So as a computer science student, something that I really work on, well, I'm not working on it, but I need to work on it, is it's my portfolio, right? Because as a computer science student, when you enter the workforce and you do interviews, you need to know your content. But you also need to be able to demonstrate to an employer, like, look, I can actually program, right? I can actually code. And by making and doing your own projects and uploading them to GitHub, it allows a potential employer or someone who wants some freelance work or whatever to look and see, okay, this person has already done a project similar to what I've done, or this person is passionate about programming. This is someone who is interested in programming. This is someone that programming isn't just their 9-to-5 gig, although there's nothing wrong with that. So you can see, I've worked on a couple projects. The project I want to do to start today that I'll work on, and I'll make a couple videos of it, is I want to do a simple SQL Server database. So let's see. It's not really, it's not loading my, there we go. So this is one I started working on earlier. Let's see if it'll load. Okay, here we go. So here's one that I've worked on before, and this is Little Timmy's Hot Date Database. And literally what it is, so this is just the ERD, or Entity Relationship Diagram, and this is like a blueprint for a database. So let's see, let's actually just change this to like 100%. So you can see with this, there's multiple tables, and each table stores information, right? But today, I want to create an ERD, and then I'm going to work on it, and I'm going to record the videos of me working on it. And the project I want to work on is a database that's even simpler than this one, right? So this one's pretty simple. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tables with a lot of information. Today, what I want to do, it is similar to this. Oops. But what I want to focus on is I want to make just a very basic favorite restaurants table and like favorite foods table, right? And the idea is I want to get it down to 3 to 4 tables to keep it super simple. So anyone who hasn't done databases with SQL Server, I think this will be a good project, and honestly, you could follow along. And hopefully, I'll probably be uploading this all to GitHub, so if you want to like download parts of it, you can. So first thing I'm gonna do, and this video might end up being a little longer, I'm gonna use Microsoft Visio 2010, and I'm gonna make an ERD, or Entity Relationship Diagram, and it'll be the blueprint for the database we're gonna design. So this will just be an ERD initially. Right, so Visio is trying to think what to call it. It's a diagramming software. It's good for planning. So we're using this one, a database model diagram, and this is Visio 2010. And let's make up a fictional scenario real quick. Let's see. Let's make a text box. All right, so let's make Little Timmy. No, who do we want to do? We'll make Buff Bob. Buff Bob loves good food, but he doesn't have a lot of time to search for new restaurants. When he does find a new restaurant, he wants to be able to record information about the restaurant and his favorite foods at each of these restaurants. He wants to store the information in a database. Alright, so this will be our fictional scenario. So now what we got to do is we got to figure out what we want to store. Let's try. There it is. Let's zoom in. So the first thing we're going to make. First, let's make our tables, like, before anything. Oh, there we go. So click. So you drag an entity, and that's just a table. Excuse me. Let's see. So we'll name the first one restaurant. And then what else do we want to track? Well, each restaurant has multiple food items. So we'll make a food item table. Let's see, what else do we want to track? Or let's name it menu item, not food item. Sounds better. And then since Buff Bob, like when he has a lot of friends, oh, let's add that. Since Buff Bob has many friends scattered in multiple cities, he wants to track information about specific restaurants in various cities. So what I'm thinking of is, so each alright. So we have a restaurant, we have our menu items, right? And let's see what we'll do, and we're just gonna make up what do you want to call it? A unique identifier. And what a unique identifier, in our case, we'll just make a, let's see, let's add a column. And we'll make it restaurant ID. Actually, let's see. Let's go, so real quick, sorry, I forgot to do this at the start. Let's go to database. Let's click display options, actually. Let's do crow's feet. Show verb, phrase, general, physical names. Let's do that. So we're just changing how it appears. Let's see, let's try database drivers. Okay, so database drivers is a really important one because as you can tell, like there's different types of databases and they all use a basic type of SQL. SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and it's the language used for all databases. But then in addition to SQL, each type of database has its own unique language. We're going to be using Microsoft SQL Server. So we're going to change the data types to match Microsoft SQL Server. Right. So now we can change this. Let's see, what do we want to use for? So we're making just, restaurant ID is just going to be an ID number. So we need something that can increment. Let's do small int. And that's just a small number. And it's going to be required and it's going to be a primary key. And it's a made up number that is unique. So it's a unique identifier. Basically what it comes down to is in databases we need something to uniquely identify each piece of information, right? So for example, if I met someone and his name was Robert, And I'm like, well, I want to hang out with Robert. And someone's like, which Robert, right? Because there are hundreds of Roberts, thousands of Roberts, billions of Roberts. Okay, maybe not billions of Roberts, right? But you need some sort of unique identifier. So, for example, on the internet, your unique identifier, the way that many companies identify you and the way you log into things is with your email, right? So, for example, if your email is hotstuff@hotmail.com, there is only going to be one hotstuff@hotmail.com, right? Or if your name is going to be ooglegoogle@gmail.com, there's only one ooglegoogle@gmail.com, right? There could be an ooglegoogle@yahoo.com or whatever, but each email is unique, and that's why a lot of companies use that for a unique identifier. And another thing, in the United States, when they track individual citizens, multiple citizens can have the same address, they can have the same first name, the same last name, they can have the same age, the same birth date. So what they do is they make up a number called the Social Security number, and every single person in the United States that's like a legal resident, right? Each person has a Social Security number that is unique to them. That is to say, if a government person goes in and punches in your Social Security number, you are the only person that will show up. So that's what we're doing with this restaurant ID, is it's our unique identifier. Each restaurant, like there might be multiple McDonald's scattered in multiple cities, so you can't say, oh, I want to go to McDonald's. There's multiple McDonald's, but each specific McDonald's will have a restaurant ID, and we'll be able to access that. So, and it's super important for each table to have some sort of unique identifier. And the PK stands for primary key. The primary key is the unique identifier, generally. Okay, let's menu item. And with this one, we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to make a menu ID, right? And we'll just make it a small int to keep things simple. And this is the unique identifier, so we'll just say this is the unique identifier. Perfect. Now, the interesting thing is when tables interact with each other, there's a parent to child relationship most of the time. What that means is one of the items inherits all the attributes of the other item. So, for example, let's set one up. So this is a relationship, right? We'll drag this one right here. Oops, what's it doing? There we go. So it turns red, it means it's connected. All right, so let's explain what this is right now. So restaurant is the parent table to this child table. What that means is each menu item inherits all the attributes of the restaurant above it, right? So for example, if you buy a Big Mac at a specific McDonald's, what's going to end up happening is, let's see, where did I put it? Or actually, shoot, we might be adjusting this table a little bit. But imagine you go and you're like, what address can I buy a Big Mac at, right? Well, the restaurant, the Big Mac inherits the address of whatever McDonald's it's at, right? But in addition to that, like a chicken sandwich or whatever they have, it'll also be at that same address. And because of that, the menu item will inherit everything from the restaurant. Now on the flip side, so this is a relationship. This is crow's feet notation. So right here, these three, and right now it's set up as a one-to-many relationship. So right here, that line, that means it's one. One restaurant, and then the little crow's feet, the 1, 2, 3 lines, that's many. So this is a one-to-many relationship. Each restaurant can have one or more menu items, but each menu item can only be at one restaurant. And that isn't fully true in the real world, but for the purposes of our database, we're going to keep it that way. All right, so next we're going to, and I did this intentionally, but next we're going to create a many-to-many relationship. So we're going to create a table. The table, what do we want to call the table? Let's call the table city. Whoops, that's not what I want. My bad. Let's see. Although it'll end up being just city ID, so. All right, now what's the relationship between city and restaurant? Well, it's what's called a many to many. Now this is a problem, right? You can't have, so if every time I'm like, which restaurant or which city is McDonald's in, and it pops up a million cities, and I'm like, which restaurant is at a city, and it pops up a million restaurants. It's a many to many, and it's hard to represent that. And we talk about normal form. I'm not going to talk about that a lot, but basically, you want to normalize databases. So when you look up a piece of information, it's only in a database once, and by connecting the tables, when you search for a specific piece of information, it'll only show up once, and that's good for data integrity. Or the challenge is, imagine if the information for a restaurant was stored in like 10 places, right? So we had like 10 tables, and let's say I need to change the address on the restaurant. Well, with a database that doesn't have data integrity, what happens is I have to go through 10 tables and update the address 10 times. And if I update it 9 times and miss one, people who use my database might run into problems and may pull up the wrong address. And because the data integrity is not good, the database is not reliable, and it's just not good. We've screwed up as computer scientists, right? So you only want the information stored one way. So something we need for restaurant and city, in order to connect them, is we need a table in between to resolve the many-to-many relationship. And like honestly, I'm not even let's see. And I think there's probably better ways to implement it than the way I'm about to do it, right? I'm just gonna name it specific restaurant. Oops, I can't spell. And I want to emphasize there are probably better ways to do this. I'm not a super amazing expert when it comes to databases, right? So what we're going to do is literally, oops, I accidentally bumped my trackpad. Let's start that over. Specific restaurant ID. And we're going to make this small int. Oops. I think you can make a composite key where you don't have a primary key, and it's your primary key is literally just the two keys put together. But in my case, I'm just gonna go ahead and have a specific restaurant ID. So what we're gonna do next is with this, it resolves the many to many. So each restaurant, it can be in multiple cities, right? So for example, there can be a McDonald's in Centerville, Utah, and Farmington, Utah. So you can have multiple McDonald's and multiple restaurants, but each city can have multiple restaurants. So what you do is you make this middle table. It's the child of each one. So each restaurant can have multiple specific restaurants, and each city can have multiple specific restaurants. So we're going to drag out. We're going to create two relationships. Whoops. And you can see what the software or Microsoft Visio does is it automatically moves all the information. It moves the two foreign keys in, because since it's a child table, these are the parent classes, it automatically inherits all the information from city and restaurant. All right, so this is our very basic ERD. My voice is actually getting pretty hoarse, so we're going to end right here. I'm actually going to make it look just a little prettier real quick. How do you want to do it? Let's move. Let's see. Let's move this one over here. Move that one right there. Let's move the menu items right here. This will make it look a little prettier. Let's drag it down. Let's use. So again, this is a super simple database. You're probably not going to encounter databases this simple in the real workforce, I'd imagine. I'd imagine most databases are more complicated than this. All right. So there we go. This is going to be an extremely easy database. and I look forward to. I'm gonna probably do this project is gonna be done in parts. It's gonna take a little bit, but yeah. So as always, check out www. Why is it doing that? Oh well, we'll leave it. Check out www.cslearner.com, and if you haven't done so already, subscribe, comment, favorite, anything, right? And just let me know what you like, let me know what you dislike. Otherwise, that's the end of this video, and I look forward to working on the rest of this project for you, and we'll upload it to GitHub, and we will build some SQL experience. SQL is used a lot in the workforce, so I'm really, really excited about this. So awesome, guys. Well, I will see you later.